Good morning, everybody. Or in the case of the United Kingdom, it's getting to be kind of late evening by now, or at least evening time, right? Tea time. Hi. Okay, I'm really super excited because I wake up this morning to text messages and DMs from Lisa Serafini, 50 Lines Only on Twitter. She, as you all know, is traveling. Well, maybe some of you know, but she's one of the first people on Twitter who wasn't local, who recognized the kind of creative, connective idea of the Red Berets. So she has been very much a core link of the Red Berets on Twitter, and also has helped by putting us, by suggesting that we could fly out together. She could fly, and I could fly, and helped me get to Sema Hernandez's Senate campaign launch a couple of years back. So yeah, we've met in person, and I'm really excited to see her. She's coming out to Tacoma, Washington, to be interviewed and to be a part of this healthcare justice documentary that Kenny Ballentine is going to be filming. So, as most of you know, but for those of you who don't, if you're new to this conversation, Kenny Ballentine is a documentary filmmaker who reached out after he heard my interview on Amped Up podcast with Ryan Knight, and just asked if anybody had done a documentary or covered the Red Berets movement. And I said, no, nobody has yet. And he said, well, would you like to have a meeting and maybe collaborate? So we've done all of that. And now we are in the early developmental stages of this documentary. Well, I can't speak to what it is. It seems like the early stages, but it feels like there's already so much. Some things that I've been able to announce, and some things that are not mine to announce. But it is starting here in Tacoma, Washington, because that's where I am. So, Washington State is really, as far as local organizing, is the home of the Red Berets for Medicare for All, because we've been knitting and crocheting for Whole Washington. So if you're not following or aware of the work of Whole Washington, please go to wholewashington.org, and that's how you could get yourself a red beret if you wanted to order one, or an organizing bundle. But we're working here for state level efforts. I have so much to say. So anyway, yeah, I want to get to the exciting announcement of having having tweeted at and wanting to get the attention of Larry Sanders, who is Bernie Sanders' brother. He lives over in the UK, and has been very part of the organizing effort, on the kind of front lines of speaking out about the NHS, on the chopping block. They're trying to. There's forces at work, and people who are trying to privatize it and sell it off bit by bit. I don't want to really speak too much about it, because I feel like I don't really know the details, other than everybody that is on Twitter probably has seen or known the hashtag Save the NHS, and we obviously know that Boris Johnson is no friend of the NHS, and this is they passed or put in place their national health system over 70 years ago. So it's a national treasure. And what I do know about it, I mean, I can speak a little bit, because I lived over there for 7.5 years. So that's how we get to the piece of why when Kenny Ballentine asked me what is the biggest potential scope that I could imagine for this documentary, and I forget if he asked me what's the biggest scope you imagine for Red Berets, or if he said this documentary, but both. They're connected now. So, and I see I have a lot of energy. You see me like sort of like wringing my hands. This is very exciting, um, because here we are starting on the West Coast in Tacoma, Washington. And we do have, in addition to Kenny Ballentine, who lives in California, um, and he's traveling up to do this first, it's the final weekend, the 26th, 27th, and 28th of March. So we're coming up really soon on his visit. And Lisa Serafini and Scott DeNoyer are flying out. Scott is in New York, so he's been very active and supportive, and testified for the New York Health Act. So he's been a very great connector of the two apples. The apple, because being as New York is the Big Apple, and I might need to sneeze, so I'm warning you all in advance that that's coming. Does anyone have to sneeze on a live feed? Excuse me. Some morning allergies. Okay, so anyway, so it's wonderful to have Scott's support, because now this helped get the story of his son, uh, who over $20 prescription. Um, I'm not going to try to tell his whole story, because I'll get the insurance company wrong and all kinds of stuff. But obviously, I hope that you're all following Scott DeNoyer on Twitter, and he's coming out to be interviewed. His hashtag is Downey Strong, and no one fights alone. So he has been a wonderful connector, always kind of like somebody who's been very willing to link arms and fight. No one fights alone. I mean, it's all in his hashtag. He doesn't get like, oh, this is my son's story. Let me just stand on my own and do it. He knows that in order to lift up and make sure that everybody has a chance to hear the tragedy of his son, of him losing his son to the profit motive, uh, is that he lifts other people up, and he's been like the Red Berets, and as a Red Beret, because we sent him Red Berets, he's always trying to connect up all of the good efforts for healthcare justice. So he is active with New York Health Campaign. He came out here a couple of years ago to Oregon to be in person at the Healthcare for All Now conference. I wasn't at that one, but Georgia Davenport and Jen Nye are we're at that, representing whole Washington. So that's how. So Scott actually is connected through the Red Berets, and he's connected directly up to whole Washington, because he came out to that conference and established a good relationship with Georgia and Jen Nye. So we're all connected up, because what we all have in common is this idea that we need to put all of our efforts and lift everybody's voices up and connect up grassroots candidates, no matter what party that they're running in. If they're running solidly on getting the profit motive out of healthcare and for Medicare for all, or whatever level of government that they're, so I have a couple of city council people, former candidates for city council here in Tacoma, who are on the list to be interviewed, and Jason Call for Congress, who is running again. Anyway, look how lost in all of the minutia, but there's a lot of moving pieces already in this documentary. But what had happened was, I did a live stream kind of recently where I really got very meandering about it. But I really wanted to bring myself in, my story as a holistic healthcare practitioner who had studied in the UK for 7.5 years, and 4 of those years were at Cambridge Body Psychotherapy Center in Cambridge, obviously, and concurrently, as part of that course, biodynamic massage. And those were the first seeds of my activism, because it was I wasn't raised like I didn't know firsthand. We America is very good, or the powers that be are very good at hiding the atrocities of our system. So, if you're someone who happened to live in a grow up in a family where you were working class, maybe you didn't have a ton of money, but you didn't ever fear that you couldn't. Your experience was you got to go see a doctor if you were sick, then you quite possibly, and in my case, this is true, weren't aware of the atrocities and how many people are losing their lives here every year unnecessarily, who are going medically bankrupt, who can't afford their prescriptions, who are cutting their pills in half, who are having to choose between making rent and buying food and being able to, again, pay for their outrageous costs of prescriptions. And this is all the stuff that Bernie brought into the national awareness, where some people had been completely almost ignorant to it if they hadn't had a bad experience. But now increasingly, almost everybody has, right? And even my own story of the reason we have healthcare, my family, is because we served. We were part of the military industrial complex. So call that what you will. Because we were part of the machine for 20 years, uh, we now have health care for the rest of our lives. And I have this wonderful education from England. Um, but should people have to join the military and go serve in these interventionist wars and this imperialistic foreign policy that we have in our country, where we fund all of these endless wars, but we can't even give our people, make sure that our people can have health care the way every other developed nation has. Also, that we can have a health care and a jobs program and education. A lot of people join the military for education opportunities, disadvantaged people. So these are issues that we need to link up. And anyway, so I did that whole live stream about kind of connecting the red thread, because there was a red thread back at Cambridge Body Psychotherapy Center, and it's all very interesting to think that them asking me all those years ago about how could I stand to serve a country that leaves so many behind. Those were the seeds that were planted, even though I had no awareness at that time. That was the first um, experience of me opening my eyes and thinking, I don't even know about this. How shameful or how embarrassing. So I started to maybe become aware at that point in time. And then many, many years later, moving back here to the US, experiencing, by the way, something of a pretty powerful depression, because it was very hard to leave the UK. I absolutely loved it over there and loved the people and loved the culture and all of that. Um, but then, we moved to Arizona, and now uh, quite a number of years back up here to the Pacific Northwest, and um, and it was Bernie's message, Bernie running in 2016, that really kind of like where those deep seeds from the UK kind of got watered and sprung to life. Of wow, we can really do this. I feel for the first time like I'm being offered, like, here's how you can get involved and make a difference. And so I felt very, very mobilized by Bernie Sanders and Dr. Jane Sanders and Roseanne DeMoro, who I heard them speak after the 2016 primary. It was somewhere, I think, no, it was after I listened to that rally even after Trump was elected. So I had supported Bernie, but I hadn't been involved in volunteering for his campaign. I hadn't really been on social media. I wasn't. Um, so there was a lot that I didn't know at that time, but I had managed to hear about him. I think it very well may have been my sister who lives in Canada, who, by the way, who loves her healthcare, and who shared about Bernie. I'm not sure how it is, how all of these connections happen, but basically, I did, and I voted for Bernie. But then he didn't, shall we say, he didn't get the nomination. The corporate media and the Democratic machine made sure that he didn't get the nomination in 2016, and then we've seen what's happened in 2020. So anyway, but it was after Trump's. It was really quite a few months, and in fact, it was after the Women's March and all of the pink hats too, where that kind of seed had planted from seeing those aerial views of everybody who had knit and crocheted those hats. Um, Listening to Roseanne DeMoro and Dr. Jane Sanders and Senator Bernie Sanders speak on YouTube. I saw it, a national nurses rally, and that's when like all of the different threads and seeds and whatever our analogies came together to be what do we, that's it I'm a knitter. Let's I'm wearing my own knitted hat, and here's this amazing. You can see another one in the background. That one back there is for Lisa for 50 lines only when she arrives here, with some matching Bernie's mittens, because we've started. Sarah Hansen came up with the idea that ooh, why don't we, and Jen, I never remember Jen, the woman who is in Vermont who knit these Bernie's mittens that kind of got fame, that really brought a lot of people's interest around handcrafting. So that's fantastic. So we're never saying that these are her mittens, right? But we are making sure to make clear that these are inspired by her work and by Bernie wearing her mittens. And so our crafters, we're all grassroots. We're donating our work. We're trying to foment action where people, wherever they are, they could start knitting and crocheting these in solidarity. And if you're in other one payer states, and if you're in the UK where you're connected up and you're aware of the situation where your NHS is under duress, just understand that we created these red berets as a creative symbol of solidarity for healthcare justice. And in the United States, what that means is moving to a national improved Medicare for all system. The national legislation of Bernie's and Representative Pramila Jayapal. And it also means, especially in light of the fact that we have a president who has said he would veto Medicare for all if it ever were to land on his desk. What it especially means now is supporting wonderful one-payer state efforts such as wholewashington.org. I have had this philosophy from very, very early on because a nurse, Catherine Lewandowski, who saw my posts in a Bernie 220, like in a Facebook group after I had the idea, she saw my posts because I was putting pictures up of my early red berets that I was knitting and saying, when are we marching for Medicare for all? Uh, let's knit for nurses and the 99% crochet for care, something like that. That's what I was doing over and over again. And she messaged and said, I'm in Northern Washington, or I'm in Everett. I'd love to come down and hear about this idea. I think it sounds amazing. So she came down and listened to this knitting idea, and I don't know what all of that is. I can't answer all of these things. So anyway, yeah, and that's when she connected me up to Whole Washington. Turn that off. That's when she connected me to wholewashington.org and said, "Did you know that there's a fantastic state level organization that we're working uh, to try to and Whole Washington works via state legislative efforts. So we had a bill, we still have a bill in the House, SB 5204, which we've been denied a hearing by the Senate Health Care Committee. This is all stuff that's going to come out in the documentary. Um, but we also work on ballot initiatives. And we do need to raise money to be able to successfully run a ballot initiative. So I do encourage anyone who sees this live stream and you would like to help and you would like to see a path in the United States, let's not forget that our neighbors to the north passed their Medicare system over 50 years ago, state by or province by province, beginning with Saskatchewan. So we've all been very, very clear that the cleanest and best way to get to where we want to go is to just pass it at the federal level. And that was the goal, and that was the hope. That was everything we were fighting for with Bernie Sanders' presidential run. And obviously, the establishment wanted to do everything that they could to stop that. There are very, very far reaching effects of passing National Improved Medicare for All. To get back to the point that I made a few minutes ago about the military and it being a jobs program and a healthcare program and an education program, what does that do to our sort of war machine if everybody just has the right to healthcare? Wouldn't people be less reliant on poor people having to sign up to go serve in these endless wars if they already have health care as a human right and as people in other developed nations do? So you see, it's not just they don't. It's much bigger than just the insurance lobby. And the pharma don't want it. That's big enough in and of itself, but it really is connected up to um, completely, and it changes the lives of people. They don't have to be tied to uh, employment that they are unhappy with. They can have the freedom to actually go and be entrepreneurial and do what it is that they want to do. Uh, so it actually changes a whole lot that the system really, the powers that be really don't want us to change that stuff because it works in their favor if we are kind of locked in, right? So Medicare for All touches a hell of a lot of things that the establishment didn't want touched. And so that is that. But all along, because of being introduced to Whole Washington by this nurse, who is now co chair of Whole Washington, um, I understood that we needed to have a real solidarity approach, a kind of link arm in arm. Absolutely, we're pushing all the time for the federal national legislation, but we also have to support candidates at every single level who are fighting for it. And we need to lift up organizations like Whole Washington because they're the ones that build the grassroots, they're the ones that build and get out and talk to people in their communities. And that's the kind of thing that we would need to have nourished and grown in order for us to uh, get enough momentum and support to pass National Improved Medicare for All. It can't just be a top down approach where uh, the elected representatives at our beloved progressives at the top say, okay, it's time to pass this. And it is not good enough just to uh, ask your volunteer base to uh, please call your representative. I've called my representative. I've called Derek Kilmer a whole bunch of times, and so have a whole bunch of us. And in fact, to get back to the documentary in Tacoma, um, we're going to be doing an action surrounding Representative Kilmer's Tacoma office and asking, demanding, pleading that he actually co-sponsor Representative Jayapal's bill, which will be reintroduced. I think it will be a different bill number. That's being introduced in a week, the day uh, to the day of all 50 states having diagnoses of COVID-19. So, but it's not good enough to just ask all of us to call our representatives because we've been doing that. And the thing about it is that all due respect, but that's disingenuous to a degree because if we thought we could move Derek Kilmer, I mean, he had an excellent primary challenger and he wasn't moved to support Medicare for all by a strong primary challenge. So we need to get real about this and say, until we're able to successfully primary or replace all of these people that take corporate money, we need to have our progressive leaders helping to lift up and support people that are trying to accomplish this at the state level. So anyway, that's my suggestion and my hope and my ask. But in the meantime, what we are doing with this documentary is we're hoping to, as Kenny Ballentine, said in his early messages to me, that he'd been looking for a creative grassroots way of covering healthcare justice. So we are all about the business of organizing it. We have about 18 or 20 people. I would ask him to interview everyone in Washington State who's been involved with this, if I could. But we have we don't have all of the time, but we have a whole weekend. We're being gifted with, as I said, that we were connected up through Amped Up Podcast by Ryan Knight, and it's just phenomenal because now Kenny is coming up here. He's going to get some of this direct action, hopefully, on film. And we have, we're doing 2 days of filming interviews. And what I have tried to do with the list of people is to make it a very holistic list of people who are going to be heard from. So I'll be heard from, yes. Scott Denoyer will be heard from. Lisa Serafini will be heard from as kind of national, people that have been connected to the Red Berets nationally fighting for this, and to Whole Washington. And then we'll hear from Georgia Davenport, who is the founder and field director of Whole Washington. I think we'll hear from Jen Nye, who is the Whole Washington communications director. Possibly, I haven't confirmed with some of these people. I think Jen Nye will be happy to be heard from, and she's just a joyous person to. She's really a joyous person to hear from. So I hope we hear from her, and then so the point is, I wanted some core voices from the foundations of Whole Washington. So that piece is covered. Laura the knitter is covered. The national voices are covered, and then I wanted. The local healthcare stories and of course there are so many, but we will hear from Leah and Steve Perkle because they are in Senator Annette Cleveland's district, and she's the one that has denied us a hearing. She's the chair. She denied Whole Washington SB 5204 a hearing, and Leah and Steve Perkle have a healthcare story that needs to be heard, and so it will be. And then I've also thought, what we've tried to do with our little grassroots organization is to knit and crochet for candidates, as I mentioned earlier. So, and to me, that meant we need this sort of ripple effect. So I've got sort of Tacoma City Council who have been part of Whole Washington, or part of the, this. Be supportive of Bernie, and kind of connecting them up, and then also Jason Call, who's running for House of Representatives, and he is a board member of Whole Washington. So you see, we're connecting this up, and then we also will be filming like a little crafting circle, maybe at either my local yarn store. So we'll hear from the crafters as well. We'll hear from some of the crafters. So this thing about connecting the red thread, and Lisa's got this wonderful quote that I say from her, that's "Let's craft the fabric of our future." That's what the fabric of the Red Berets looks like, in my vision. It looks like connecting up all good efforts and hearing from as many human stories as we can, and from movement leaders. So we do have, as I said, some wonderful people beyond Washington State who have confirmed. But I don't want to get too much into that because that's Kenny Ballentine's territory, and those announcements will be made whenever the time is right to do that. Uh, but when people communicate directly with me, and seeing as my request was, so let me find the original tweet. Let me just do that, okay? I'll go look and find at Sanders for Health. At Sanders for Health. If you are not following Larry Sanders, he's over in the UK. Um, so I'll tell you all about how I do the Red Berets on Twitter, even though Twitter is kind of making sure to stifle down my voice as much as possible. And then I try to put these things on on the most advantageous or visible, like where can I put this other than just on my own feed, where other people who I might like to notice this, where can I put that? So I put this original thread and everything on Jane Sanders' feed, and she has a tweet where she's retweeted Bernie, um, and it's sort of well, let me not analyze it. I'll just read it. It's his video where end tweet says in 1994 Democrats in power lost big because they were not bold. In 2010 it happened again. If we do not take aggressive action now to protect working families, it will happen in 2022. So she's retweeted that Bernie Sanders tweet and video. Adding to it, at POTUS at VP. So she said, at POTUS and at VP are being bold and progressive on many fronts right now, but the status quo politicians will work hard to persuade them that it just can't be done. We all need to speak up strongly and consistently to support them by arguing that it must be done. Well, now I would say that that is a skillful and very diplomatic, which is perfect. That's what is advantageous for her to do. Now, many of us looking at that, of course, are saying they're not being bold or courageous at all. They're not. But I think that it always does. It's best. She's giving them an opportunity. She's saying this. This is my analysis of it. It's like giving them a vision of who they could be, right? Because people always can deserve a chance to be something different than what we expect of them. And Ryan Knight and I were talking on the interview on Amped Up podcast. There was a segment there where I mentioned, that we've all evolved. That we've really opened our eyes, and not everybody in this progressive movement has had their eyes open fully the whole time. And we might have been kind of awake, like we loved Bernie's message, but there were aspects of things that we didn't have our eyes completely open to. And over time, the blinders have really come off. So, I think it's beneficial that she make a tweet like that where it's like sort of calling them to the best of what's possible. The rest of us understand, and this tweet is a little bit old, so uh, you know anyway, but I did want Dr. Jane Sanders to have the opportunity to get a look in case there's a possibility that she or Bernie would like to be a part of this documentary. That would obviously be amazing. And I think I think Kenny has reached out to Senator Nina Turner. Uh, we will love it if we can do the outreach. And so let me read the tweets instead of just pontificating about all of this. We dream big, and we get whose involvement we get, and we're grateful for it. But we're going to get, and we already have, the involvement of the 99%. So we're doing this. This is our work. This is the culmination of years worth of creative work and solidarity building, coalition building with whole Washington and with other people that we've managed to connect to across the United States. So it will already be a beautiful and powerful piece of work. And obviously, we hope that it will be elevated and lifted, and we hope to have as much involvement as you know, if Dr. Jane Sanders or Bernie Sanders or both want to be a part of this, we would be deeply honored. Um, but it is moving forward, and we are doing this work because we just because we have a president who said assured us that he would veto this legislation, that absolutely doesn't change. We were working for this all throughout Trump's um, administration. And he wasn't for Medicare for all. Clearly. So, although he did run on saying he was going to, no, we didn't want him to repeal in place. We needed to go the other direction. But he has been on the record, as unpopular as it might be to share this, he has been on the record for probably, I think, prior to him being elected, of saying that single payer works well in other countries. Well, we already know he went and ruined a bunch of coastline up in in Scotland. So he does know that the healthcare systems of other countries work well. So it's no surprise that he actually did say it works well in other countries. Well, we know you think so, Mr. Trump, because you've clearly gone and put your golf courses on people's treasured land, and you certainly know that their system works better than ours. So, and he did run on that. He said he was going to repeal and replace Obamacare and cover everybody. Now, we didn't want him repealing that legislation because what he actually wanted to do was privatize it even further and take away what was achieved under the ACA. But when he was running, the way that that reads as a campaign promise is single payer. He didn't say Medicare for all, but when you say you're going to cover everybody, what that means is that many of the people that heard him, he was running on single payer. Can we just be honest about that? There was a lot of people that voted for him because they knew that because they don't have any insurance, they don't have any health care, and or they're being bankrupted by what they have right now, or they can't afford their prescriptions. Okay, so that's a little backstory. And I'm getting a little bit off track here as I want to read this thread. But my point is, we didn't stop organizing during the Trump administration. We were working all throughout because we had this hope that Bernie was going to run again, and we knew we needed to do everything that we could. So we were organizing. You don't organize just because you have an administration that says they're not for healthcare justice, and the Trump administration was not for healthcare justice. The Biden administration is not for healthcare justice. That does not mean that we aren't going to be doing everything we can uh, to movement build, in case we get lucky, in case we have another movement leader, Senator Nina Turner, who will come along and carry this torch. But we can't sit around and wait for that. We can't sit around and say, oh, when hopefully maybe in 4 or 8 years we'll have another chance in a lifetime. No, our chance is now. Our chance is what we do right now together as the 99%. So I responded to Dr. Sanders' tweet. I said, here is a video I made recently on my years of study in the UK and how they very much shaped who I would become as a healthcare justice activist years later after listening to you, Jane, Roseanne DeMoro at Bernie Sanders at National Nurses, #Red Berets, and I link the video that I made. Then I followed that up with, I was reached out to by a documentary filmmaker at Kenny Ballentine after he listened to my interview with Proud Socialist on Amped Up podcast. The red thread was never broken. You all watered the seeds. Biggest dream? I guess it would be you planted the seeds, but that's okay. It was a good enough tweet for him to retweet. Biggest dream? A visit to the UK at Sanders for Health with at Susan Sarandon narrating. Yeah, I like to dream big, right? What good will it be if we just have no vision for what we could do, right? Uh, are we supposed to just curl up and give up on this because the establishment thinks that it's beat us? That's not going to happen. Okay, so I tweeted that, and then I've got, I love my imagery, so I've got a meme that Fran Bauer at Vote No GMO made. That's "We knit for Medicare for all." Hashtag Red Berets, and it's got a whole bunch of us around in our red berets at different events. And then side by side next to it, she had made quite some time back um, a meme of Susan Sarandon in a virtual red beret, and her quote here is, "America was only ever great for a privileged few. This movement is not about walking over anyone, but reaching out to lift each other up. It's about making a real difference in the lives of the working class, the people who make this country run, because that makes all of us stronger." Susan Sarandon. And then I tagged the Red Beret Brigade. And then I added on to that with at Sanders. Let's see. Well, he retweeted that. That's the original thing. That's what I woke up to this morning, is that Larry Sanders had retweeted that, um, and I had DM'd him a couple of times, I think, and Lisa. That's the thing. We do a lot of organizing on Twitter, and I don't know if the what the appropriate channels are, but the appropriate channel for me is to just reach out and sometimes even very visibly just to tag people, and that's how I do my movement building. And I suppose if people don't, if it's kind of too much, then they don't respond to it. But I think overall, overwhelmingly, that they have responded and people have participated, and something about the Red Berets has spoken to a lot of people. So, excuse me. So after he had retweeted, and after I see all of Lisa's messages saying he's retweeted, I said, "At Sounders for Health, you see us. Might we dare to dream of flying across the Atlantic with that Kenny Ballentine? I know Jill Westland, my former course director of Cambridge Body Psychotherapy Center, has already emailed back to say she hopes we can make it over." And I said, "Imagine." And I've put a picture of myself on YouTube here with what I said next to it was, "What single payer means to me is that as a holistic healthcare practitioner, people can afford to come see me because it's covered as part of the wellness plan, part of a wellness plan that in the long term saves lives and money. But the insurance lobby and pharma don't profit from holistic care, do they?" Laura Fielding, Red Berets. Um, Yeah, because it was covered, it was integrated much more, is what I learned when I was studying over in the UK. A lot of, some at least, holistic modalities are covered. So then Lisa responds with "Dare to dream, damn it." She and I are, you know, we do that bounce back and forth on Twitter, and Fran, Bauer does it, and there's a group of us, and Kentucky Mountain Woman is in there when we tag her, and of course Georgia Davenport and Sarah Hansen, and Dr. Dooley's been absolutely fantastic in retweeting us, and uh, Senator Nina Turner has been very fantastic about retweeting. Right now, she's got her eye focused very locally, as it should be in Ohio 11, so she can get elected to that seat. So. But every once in a while, she'll come along with it's been a little minute in time, not too long ago though. She came along and hit a like on my pinned tweet, and I take that as "I see you. You're still out there." She's not retweeting a lot of. I don't. It seems to me, if I had to kind of look at things, it would be, you know, that the establishment can, they kind of weaponize anything that they can get there, that they can do. You know, if she's perceived to just be leaning completely on her national following and her national support system instead of focusing on her district, and she, because she needs to focus on her district, that's what she's running to represent them, right? um, but you know, so I think she's being very focused, rightfully so, on her Ohio 11 campaign. um, but she has, in throughout all of Bernie's campaign and for quite some time, been shown enormous solidarity, putting on the red beret, putting on the red beret with a whole Washington button on the front, putting on a red beret with, and taking that picture with Dr. Victoria Dooley. They've helped us movement build. They've helped us get a grassroots idea out into the national spotlight. And I just can't say enough words of gratitude for Senator Nina Turner and Dr. Dooley. And you know, when Dr. Dooley came and did, along with Justin Jackson, came and did our local Power to Heal event that was hosted by Whole Washington, uh, and that was really sad because I my internet went down, and so I wasn't able to see that that first moment where she came on screen and she had the purple beret that I had handcrafted and sent to her, kind of knit in Nina's purple, you know, and also purple for breaking the duopoly, by the way, just so everyone knows. Um, yeah, so let me see, where was I going to go to this exciting stuff? So, yeah, so, you know, Larry Sanders responds in the DM with, "Dear friends, I would be delighted to talk about the NHS, its enemies, and the necessity for Medicare for all, etc. Best, Larry." So you had to listen to 40 minutes of my other stuff to get the good to get the good stuff, right? No, but you know, you could see that I was trying to kind of uh, paint this. We work together all of the threads of everything because we need to stay very focused on what it is that we're getting ready to do here in 10 days. We're starting out, and what a huge, enormous privilege it is to have. You know, we've really worked so hard to get somebody to notice this kind of grassroots creative way of organizing, this kind of solidarity approach of, you know, I know people don't want to talk about single, like one payer states because everybody across the United States needs it. We need it. But we're at a point in time where I'm hoping that we can really, we can start to lift each other up and connect everything up a little bit more, because we see what happens when, you know, we all really thought it was possible. We all really, I don't know. The DNC never ceases to surprise me. Like, but actually, I'm not really surprised anymore. I know the blinders are completely off. I know who they are. I know that they would do everything they could to stop the healthcare justice champion from getting to the White House. Um, but in my mind, that just makes us organize more. That makes us realize that, well, actually, we had more work to do. Yeah, he was running up against the media propaganda machine, and all of the corporate money, and so much money and power that wanted to stop him at all costs. Um, and the real fact of the matter is, people can, there's all different ways that we can analyze what could have been done better on all different levels. But at the end of the day, we didn't have quite the we didn't have quite the infrastructure of people out, getting out into their communities and doing the work to quite overcome uh, the media machine, the media propaganda. That's my analysis of it anyway. And so this is why I want to really press upon people the importance of lifting up grassroots efforts, because we are getting out into our community. I mean, we're going to be doing the filming for this documentary at Marconi Chiropractic and Wellness on Martin Luther King way where I work. I just asked my boss directly, is this something that, you would be willing to offer the space, or I mean, we could rent it, or you could donate it. But I'd love to do it here where I'm in my other element, where I feel at home. Um, and she said, yes, we'd love that. And she understands it's not going to be any kind of like it may not even be mentioned. She's going to be interviewed as a doctor of chiropractic, and like how she sees the healthcare system and who she can treat and what the limitations are, and who knows that her story. It's important to hear from holistic healthcare practitioners. We're a piece of the healthcare system. They also want to shut us out because we provide um, healing that actually helps make people less reliant on the pharmaceutical giants. This is all connected, and so they need to hear from people like us. So that's another piece, and we're going to build as holistic of a picture as possible. And I wanted to share that exciting news, and I hope, Larry, that if you watch this, that it's okay that I shared that you've DM'd that you're very open to the possibility, and let's talk and all of that stuff. I've dreamed of going back to the. I've been once back to the UK since we moved back here many years ago. I went to like what was it, like a 30-year anniversary of CBP, of Cambridge Body Psychotherapy Center, or was it even that? It might have been, maybe I wanted to go to that and I didn't make it to that one, but this was like a, yeah, this is what it was. It was a body psychotherapy conference that is like a European. It's held in Europe like every. It's not every year, but it's every couple years or something. Every 4 years. I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway, it happened to be that it was in Cambridge, and so that felt because sometimes it's over in another country. Um, and so that felt like a big deal to me, and I wanted to go back for that, even though at that time I didn't show up as kind of my big self because I still was here. I was going back to this conference as someone who never completed my thesis, who never wrote her thesis. I completed 4 years and should have at least had the certificate level thesis, but I didn't. And I went into that in another video. Um, but I feel like I'm in my bigness now. I feel like even though I didn't write that thesis, I feel like I took the red thread and I came to the United States and I took what I learned over there um, about just what they had, the treasure that they had, that and their deep sadness and concern for all of us over here that we don't have that safety, we don't have that dignity, and brought it back here. And when it was time, that all got woken up in me by Bernie Sanders, um, and then it all came together and we started crafting these and being creative. And so now I feel like it's an opportunity to take this work and go back, and because we've been, the Red Berets have been really retweeting, during Jeremy Corbyn's run and during and everything that we've seen about this, the NHS being in jeopardy, and we've really tried with our little limited grassroots Red Beret Brigade for healthcare and peace, right? Um, we've tried to kind of show a lot of solidarity across the Atlantic, and because I think that's what we need to do. We need to have this solidarity approach where people for justice, people for human rights and dignity need to, see each other, and where possible lift each other up, and stop being so, fearful or territorial of, well, that's them, they're doing that over there and we're doing this over here. And we are very much more powerful when we connect the issues, when we connect each other up, when we say, here we are fighting for the chance for national improved Medicare for all. And yeah, the establishment devastated us with Bernie. Uh, Bernie might have been clear eyed about the very real likelihood that that would happen. But were it not for Bernie Sanders, I wouldn't be sitting here saying the movement continues. We will. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to fight for this, and it is possible. But I think that we increase our chances here if we're able to go and lift up a country that has achieved this by hearing their voices and bringing that story here and into this, and also that there are forces at work that are trying to take away from them what they have achieved. You see what I'm saying? That's a real, that's the kind of solidarity um, that I would like in this documentary. So I don't know. We might we'll keep you all posted, because it's possible that we might need to, set up some sort of a fund, or I don't know, a big GoFundMe, or like I'll talk with Kenny. He probably has on his website. If you are following him at Kenny Ballentine, he might have a way on his one of his websites that you can contribute or support his work. And when I find out or talk with him about what are some possibilities, how can we do this, I'm going over. If he agrees to go over to the UK, I'm going over, and it'll be a real opportunity of a lifetime. It's like the healing. It's like this thing that I feel like I never completed. I get to go back and say, yeah, yes, I did. I didn't complete writing the thesis, but I'm connecting us back up with my origins, with what placed this all in my heart many years ago, and I just feel so much gratitude that Kenny has been connected up to us, and that he kind of recognized the creativity, as I've told on several feeds. But in case Larry Sanders or anyone else listens to this who hasn't kind of listened to the other videos yet, Kenny said to me in our first meeting, yeah, the crafting element, the creative element really stuck out to me when I was listening to the interview, because my wife crochets and my family are crafters, and you may not have heard of a little thing called Waldorf education. And I said, yes, I have. My son is, we have him he was in Tacoma Waldorf school until it had to kind of disband, because that's a whole other long story. But we kind of tried to expand and then lost the weren't able to afford the place that we were trying to get, and that was really unfortunate. But we've carried on in a kind of little homeschool environment with his teachers, and um, this is like all of these elements of my world are coming together, uh, because the crafting element will not be lost. The crafting, the creative, the goodness, that's the thing that the Red Berets have, what I have envisioned with it. Because when you get into the weeds of the policy and the dark forces at work of the lobbies and all of the politicians that take corporate money, and everything we need to do to primary these people and elect uncorrupted healthcare justice champions, that stuff all needs to be done. And it also, though, is a place that is not for the it's something that we need to take beautiful resources in with us, right? So that we bring like the love and the visual creativity and some joy in with us, because it can be very grueling and very disheartening and all of that. So I just really want to say thank you to everyone who is part of this documentary already, and to Kenny Ballentine. And I think I've thanked you all in the thread, and I look forward to giving you some more updates. And look forward to some other really exciting announcements that are interconnected, separate but interconnected. And I can't say any more about that, but um, have a wonderful day, or as the case is over in the UK, a great night. Okay, bye bye, everyone.